So, morning. Welcome, everybody. Some faces we haven't seen for a while. So, Mr. Johnston, welcome. See, you've changed the spelling of your name. Peter Kutzer, welcome. Yeah, I haven't seen you for a while. So, welcome all. So, what are we talking about this morning? Change? Can we change? Do we change? Is change possible? Well, I don't think that was the topic, was it, Lee, at all? The question is, does anything keep changing or does nothing keep changing? Can we do anything to make things change, and how do we go about that? So, Lee, I think on that basis, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Ivan. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you. So our conversation this morning comes out of, yesterday we were talking about, does the past teach us anything? And we got to this rather depressing conclusion that the only thing the past teaches us is that nothing changes, which is what Ivan was referring to, is that we keep repeating the mistakes of the past. And so it prompted this question for this morning is, what can we do to create, to promote, to ensure change from in a social and political sphere? So we're not talking, okay, so we may come back to the personal, but what is it that we can do as individuals? So I think of myself as, this little person, part of this huge swathe of humanity. And are we simply victims of the powers that be? Centralized power, big business, big government, and what do we have at our disposal to be able to influence decision makers so that change can happen in ways that we believe are best? And so obviously the tools that we mostly have at our disposal is our vote, and our feet. And I just, whether we approve of something, whether we don't approve of something, and if we decide as a consumer that we don't like something, that we just vote with our feet. And a classic example of that that's currently in play is the privacy changes that Facebook we're making to WhatsApp, and people didn't protest. They just started moving off WhatsApp. I heard more about Signal and Telegram in the last 2 months than I've heard of, that I didn't even know existed before. And it's because consumers are saying, you know what, if you're going to mess with me, it's fine, we'll find something else. And so suddenly WhatsApp are now saying, oh, no. Or Facebook are saying, okay, well, we're going to revisit this and we'll come back to it in May. So we do have some influence when it comes to who and how we do work. And the last thing I want to say, just by way of introduction, is I just was aware, especially in 2020, that one of the tools that we use as human beings to and it's the same as what's happened in the past. So whether it works or not, I don't know, but it's certainly a tool that we use, and that is protests. And protests were rife last year, everything from Black Lives Matter to overthrowing governments. So, and I keep forgetting the names of these. So I did actually do a little bit of research. So Bulgaria, Venezuela, Sudan, Belarus, Peru, Kyrgyzstan were all countries that experienced political protests and either weakened or actually exited the government of the day. So that's just my way of saying, okay, that's just some ideas to throw into the pot, and would love to hear what you think.
Great, thanks, Lee. So I think on that basis, we've got to go across to the first of our two activists on this forum. So we'll start with the younger one, just for a change. So Scotty, I think we've got to get across to you.
Yeah, good words, Hayley. Voting with the feet, etc., and just watching what's happened with Telegram and the whole world is, yeah, it's amazing. I think the note came on Telegram a few days ago that what was it, 500 million or something? Is that right? Or 50 million? It's crazy, the numbers. And it's wonderful. What I do want to add is I'd love to hear you guys' opinion as well on what is changed, because the entrepreneurial spirit used to have money as the driving force, and however we try to pretend that's never been true, it's for other things. We kind of always used to see money as a driving force, and I have completely changed my attitude in the last year, guys. Money is no longer the driving force in my entrepreneurial endeavors, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about how that change has shifted you, if at all.
Right, thanks, Scotty. So yeah, we better get across to Ed on that, because Ed likes giving away all his money as well. So, so Ed, let's get across to you.
Yeah, after the mini riot that Trevor started off yesterday, I thought I'd stick bang on the subject, and I wrote the subject down. So what can we as individuals, consumers and voters do about changes we think are necessary? And it's something I'm very passionate about. And it's something I think that drives my life. So it is what motivates me. It's not money, it's change. And there's two quotes that kind of I live by, really. And the first one's from Martin Luther King Jr., which was, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." And then the other quote is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And that comes from a lady called Margaret Reed. I don't know whether you've heard of Margaret Reed. She was a, I forget the word for it, American anthropologist. Yeah, anthropologist. And she was inducted into the national, she's an American, inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1976. And she was posthumously given the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Jimmy Carter in 1979. So it was all stuff that influenced my teenage years. And she also said that we won't have a society if we destroy the environment. So, you know, go Margaret. As you know, I'm a big environmental campaigner. And from those quotes, I've taken the thing that I must try to change things. And from the second quote, I take that actually I can make a difference. And then through my life, I've learnt the how. And I got a very early lesson. When I left school, I couldn't get a decent job. So, well, it was a decent job, actually. I got a job working in a warehouse in Sainsbury's, which is a supermarket chain. And the warehouse was below ground, under the store. And one day I noticed that the fire exit was blocked with some old machinery and stuff. And I complained to the management that the fire exit was blocked. They ignored it, said, "Oh, there's another exit, you can get out that way." And I thought, well, if there's a fire going to happen, the fire is going to be between me and that exit. And I happened to mention to a lorry driver who was doing a delivery. And he was a member of the Transport and General Workers Union. And he said, "Join the union, they'll sort it out for you." So that lunchtime, I went down to the union's offices. It was before we had the internet or cell phones. I signed up. The following day, I had a word with the organizer, and he came down, talked to management. Management wouldn't sort the problem out. The following day, he said to me, "Come with me, we're going to stand at the top of the delivery ramp." And we were a picket. And none of the delivery drivers who were unionized would deliver to the store. And guess what? My fire exit was unblocked. And I learned then that if you join with other people, you can make a difference. And over the years, I've learned that you have to be a little bit not precious about what you want to try and achieve, because that organization might not exactly be what you want. But as long as with them, If you want to go north and they take you northeast, that's a result. As long as you aren't going south, it's a result. So I work with other people to influence. And I've always done that. When I was a CEO of a friendly society, I knew compared to the insurance companies, we were quite small. My professional advisors, I came down the bottom of the list because I was a tiny organization. You know, I used to be a professional advisor. I know how it works. So I became involved with the trade association. In fact, I became their president. So that if people piss me off, they pissed the whole of the Friendly Society movement off because I was connected. So I've always done that. But I think also I'd like to read you out, and I'll explain the reason why, a birthday card I got once. And it says, thank you for everything. Without your time, patience, support, I would not be where I am today, on holiday. And I've mentioned this before. This was a friend of mine who suddenly discovered, at the age of 26, she was an illegal immigrant. And she couldn't change her job because the government had changed it. So if you went for a new job, you had to prove you had the right to work here. She couldn't go on holiday. She couldn't leave the country. She lived her life in fear. And I helped her get her citizenship, and then she could go on holiday, which is the background to the card. And I've only mentioned it because our country had then, and still has, which I think is despicable, a hostile attitude to immigrants. And that hostile attitude affected that individual. And that individual wasn't a dangerous jihadist. She wasn't a feckless person draining the state of resources by claiming benefits. She was just a normal person, the type of person that would send me a birthday card. And I think we need to remember every single time that when we're thinking about big changes, it's individuals that are affected. And many of those individuals don't have agency. I have agency, I can make changes. A lot of people don't. So I think it's my duty to make those changes where I can. And one final example, quite recently, language to me is very important. I think we can change the world with language. And I think it was Herman who said, the limit of my vocabulary is the limit of my wisdom. And I think the limit of your vocabulary is the limit of your power. Recently, there was an advert, a government advert on radio, I thought was despicable because it was sexist and it put women down. Because of my connections, I was able to get a letter to someone high up in government. Well, it's an email actually. And because of the words in that ad was withdrawn. So we can make a difference if we believe we can make a difference, if we build our difference-making skills. And I think if we're driven by the fact that there are lots of people who are not like us, they don't have agency. Go on a bit, but it's my passion.
Great, thanks, Ed. And we can hear that very clearly. And as Scotty says, you know, and as we know, having spent many months with you on this forum, you're a storyteller of note, and we enjoy listening to the way you explain things. So, Mr. Johnston, welcome back. Let's get across to you. Can you make any changes happen?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Yeah, look, it's a very complex subject. I think there's so many different solutions. Yeah, I don't know that I have a finite comment on it, except that I think that it all starts within first of all, our own circle of influence. And secondly, it starts with what you're passionate about, where your heart lies and what you want to see change with. I mean, for me, probably prostate cancer is something that I'm passionate about, something that I work very hard at. And over the last couple of years, we've had some significant breakthroughs in men's understanding and awareness of prostate cancer. So I suppose that for me is what's closest to home. I think when you get into the arena of politics and religion and all that, it becomes quite a minefield. I mean, Don Miguel Ruiz in his book, The Fifth Agreement, says, I'm responsible for what I say, but you're responsible for what you understand, because your perceptions are what creates your reality. So I can say something quite instantly, and you understand it the way you understand it because of what you hear, and that sets off a chain reaction. I think we see that in politics, difficulty in trying to have these conversations. So yeah, nothing finite except for perhaps those just few comments.
Great, thanks, Ian. And we won't ask you to put up an image of you in your purple Speedo this morning, so we'll leave that one for another time, perhaps.
I'm very happy to do it.
I know you are. I know you are. And it amazes me that you are. So, yeah, kudos to you and the work that you're doing for the Prostate Cancer Foundation and so on. So, well done. Right, Peter, let's get across to you. Welcome. We haven't seen you for a long time on this forum either, I don't think.
Good morning, Ivan. No, you haven't seen me because this is the first Wisdom's meeting that I'm actually attending. Just refreshing your memory. Okay, I wasn't quite prepared for the meeting this morning, but I've been listening to the higher experts that were speaking before me. But coming back to my own situation, I am in the business of change. I implement systems for companies to make their life easier, which is change in itself. And since I've become a change engineer, there's one quote that I always valued and I've always lived by. And it says that you cannot enter the same river twice, for it is not the same river again and it's not the same person again. So change is inevitable and it needs to be addressed. Now, it depends, like the previous speaker has said, your passion and what you can change. The level that I'm working at is actually very easy to achieve change because you have to educate people and to see the error of their ways. But the one thing that I've learned is change shouldn't be the end goal in itself, because once you have changed, you are in a new status and you must then prepare for the next phase of change. So change shouldn't be finite and complete. It must be always be evolving in whatever way you can do that. Then unfortunately, I cannot add to the macro movements of the society, political, religious, all of the cultural values, but I believe everything has to change. There's only one thing that does not change, and that's the Word of God. That's the only constant in my life. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Peter. And as I said in the chat box, you say educating people to see the error of their ways is simple. I don't know. I've found that an incredibly challenging task in many a time. So, Jasper, I know you're a great change agent. So, yeah, coming from the south, as Ed said, you can't go too much further south. So, hopefully, you can go north from here and take us upward and onward.
Morning. Yes, I think the topic of change is continuously changing, and what one will comment on it if the same topic comes up in maybe a year's time will be totally different from today. So there's been a lot of cliches about change is the only constant, etc., etc. So I was thinking about the various comments and more or less from, okay, so what can I do about it? I'm just looking at this current situation, and to an extent I was triggered. So Lee told us about WhatsApp and how all of a sudden their simple announcement one-sidedly has created a cascading series of events which they can't extract from now. But like you say, it has now put Signal and Telegram on the map, whereas they were like fringe entities out there before, which then brought me to the thing of, as long as there's a free flow of information, it's going to be difficult for any entity to almost dictatorially make decisions where they want to influence us. So we sit with a situation where, if you just look back at the history of the last couple of years and 10s and 20s years, there's definitely a big movement afoot for the big powers to be for centralization of control, and in order for them to eventually succeed is to take your free will and your choices away. And I mean, even last year, it came up once or twice in our meetings where there was this talk of a universal grant that makes everybody equally poor, but at least you got some food to eat, etc. But what if government comes to you and say, all your debts are paid, we wipe that clean, we look after you, we give you a living grant, but then you willingly abdicate your future rights to do anything for yourself, or by basically start businesses and stuff like that. And I think if that comes out today, you'll find an amazing number of people that would actually agree to it, because people are so pressured and stressed by the current economic conditions. But with this big move afoot to centralize and take your choices away, something ingrained in every human being, and that's to almost do his own thing. So in saying what I'm saying, coming back to, I think Scotty or Ed mentioned it, as long as it's close enough to my north, I'm okay. But when you go directly across against me, then you stimulate me into action. So brings me to the word stimulus. I think humans are procrastinators. We will rather change ourselves to as far as we can to stay to still stay comfortable and not having to make difficult choices and decisions until something is just crossed the line. And I said there, the stimulus is having a common enemy. So right now, with governments making ridiculous decisions and trying to control our lives by keeping certain medicines away from us and all sorts of things. Now you start getting these quiet revolts. Nobody's saying a thing. We're not going to protest and stand on corners. We just get on with it and get it done. And I'm thinking of Scotty with his Invectum and similar kinds of things in the market. So I come back to my solution to all of this is, while change is inevitable and ongoing, what can I do continuously? And for me, that continuously is to keep on creating trust networks. In other words, keep the flow of conversation open, keep the flow of information open, and with people that I trust, so that I know they've done a lot of due diligence. So by the time that they sound the alarm on something, okay, it's time for me to take action. So yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say today.
Great, thanks, Jasper. I'm so pleased you actually gave us a solution today, but even though it was wrapped up in a question, but I think we're making some progress there. So yeah, let's go across to the guy who we struggle to make progress with, because he keeps on telling me that leopards can't change their spots and things like that. So yeah, Trevor, across to you.
Okay, so what's the topic today?
Yeah, that one.
So I've just done that to remind myself not to get off track. Otherwise, Ed will come out with his forces and actually put me into line here. Right. What can we as individuals, consumers, and voters do about creating the changes we think are necessary? So I'm going to immediately go off track because the insight as to what is happening in America is I saw a quote the other day, or I saw an individual comment that a state and the major players, Amazon, Google, Twitter, Facebook, were all working together. So if you want conspiracy theories, and there are a couple of conspiracy theorists in this little network who love to dabble in those sort of conspiracy theories. I'm not pointing to anyone, Scott, here, but you look very comfortable in your bed. Their comment was that they believe that 2021 is a massive acceleration into the demise of small business. And that as a result of COVID-19, hundreds of thousands of small businesses have disappeared. And when they actually take the American market, the guys talk sense. Well, do they talk sense? They seem to talk sense. So I'm still analyzing it, but I'm sending the written work to Ed to just do it for me, because I don't have the ability to analyze like Ed does. But they talk of the American capitalism has been buoyed by 44% small business operators. And the lovely comment that this guy made was that the leaders are like parents with kids who are small business entrepreneurs, and they've just turned to the small business entrepreneurs and said, hey, off you go. And then they've looked around and said, well, where are the kids? People have come back and said, well, they died. Why did you, why didn't you actually look after them? And they talk of this concept as corporatocracy, the demise of small business, which in essence, if you dig deeper, is they say that there's now a swing in America from capitalism to socialism. And this is where Ed, as the author of The Animal Farm, it was you, Ed, who wrote The Animal Farm, eh? Yeah, no, okay, it was Veggie Farm you wrote. Sorry, I got you mixed up with the wrong book, Ed. But I think, the purpose of wisdoms is to get us to think and to actually start going out there and analyzing what people are saying all over the world, because what people are saying collectively tends to become a major trend. And I'm on to what are the accelerated trends that are happening in 2021 that have resulted out of 2020. And if there is a major swing from capitalism to socialism, and as I'm listening to people talk here, I think they're almost, some of the discussions here are tending to say that, maybe, the socialism is starting to become a dominant trend. Well, how does it make me feel as an entrepreneur? Because I love money. The rest of the people on this blooming commentary here don't like money. I mean, Scott just wants to save the world. Ed wants to blooming well save the oysters. Jasper, he just wants everyone to be happy. I can't stand this. I'm looking for ways as an entrepreneur as to how we can make a difference in people's lives, change where they are and what they're expressing. And if I can get back to the topic, how do we go about creating the changes that are necessary? Find out what it is that people are unhappy about their lives, and then recognize what it is they want or need. And I think people are looking for a quick silver bullet fix to solutions to their business lives. And I made the comment on our FCC members site. The reason why people want this ivermectin is because it looks as though it's a quick fix to the complications of COVID-19. So they're looking for these quick fix solutions as opposed to the alternative of dying a horrible death. People want quick fixes. And I think this is going to happen. Now, I, as an entrepreneur, turn around and say, well, okay, how can I help people get their quick fixes that they're looking for? And by the way, do I just do it because I love everyone out there, 7 odd billion people? No, it's too many for me to love. What I'm interested in is how can we make money out of the opportunity as an entrepreneur? And then once we've done that, how can we apply the surplus of income that comes in to making a difference in the lives of people as we'd like to do? And that's where, instead of socialism, I think you are talking about uplifting society as opposed to dragging everyone down to a common level and, I don't know, 7 odd billion people being volunteers and being fed by someone who, because he who pays the piper calls the tune. Is that not so? I haven't thought about this topic.
No, not at all. Like, I mean, that's fairly clear. So, you know, Trevor, please go home and do your homework properly next time and come back with some real answers. You know, I think we need to get these topics online here. You know, this rambling and listening to millions of people around the world. You know, what are you going to change by listening to millions of people around the world? I'm not too sure. So you reckon? So yeah, so we can all be miserable in our wealth or our poverty. I'm not too sure which way you want to swing with that one, but yeah. So Scotty, is it not about the money? You posed the question right up front. Personally, I think it's always about the money.
Yeah, well, let me now that everybody's spoken, I mean the question's about change, and what I changed a year ago, and it took that long to fulfill, like, because you can't just make a change and suddenly it's changed. It's taken a year to understand it, but basically it was all about money. I mean, that really was the primary goal. And if you don't have enough money, it's always the primary goal. It's very difficult to do anything else. So the change that I made, and like we were doing okay, not like phenomenally and not badly, but we're doing okay. But I just didn't make money the driving force anymore. It's still a part of what I do. Of course, as an entrepreneur, you can't not have money as a part of it. It's just the change that I made was, it's just no longer the absolute driving force. And it really was, I had to admit to myself that money really was very important to me, and it's not anymore. And I feel a lot better. I'm not richer, but I certainly feel a lot better.
So it's all about the touchy-feely stuff. So as long as you feel good, you and Ed can join hands there and feel good without your money. I know some of us would prefer a little bit more. Does it make you happy? No, I don't think it does. I think what you can do with it makes you happy. And certainly if you don't have it, you can't do. So, you know, Ed, running around the world, doing extreme races, you know, organizing things. If you didn't have any money, you wouldn't be doing any of those things. So would you be happy? So yeah, I think it's
no money. I totally agree. Sorry, just to clarify, I totally agree that no money sucks. And like, there was such a great thing. The money doesn't buy happiness, but the lack of it sure as hell causes a lot of distress. So absolutely, money's important. All I'm saying is it's a mind shift. It's very difficult to put my finger on, but I don't want to say don't go for money at all. Money's still important. I'm just saying, yeah, you get a lot of good feeling because you can do an hour a week. Go out, plant a little garden, go outside, pick up some plastic rubbish. You know, go to somebody who's sad and make them feel good. There's little things you can do in life that I think we underplay. Anyway, that's my
absolutely. But I mean, there you go. You know, you changed. So you changed your focus. You changed the way you're operating, and for me, that's what it's all about. That's the only thing we can truly change is ourselves. So you can encourage people to change. You can give people good reasons to change, but ultimately, the only thing you can really change is the way you actually address the situations that are in front of you. And if that has a ripple influence going out, well, then fantastic. You know, Ed has given some great examples of how he did that. But to achieve that, he had to change the way he was approaching the challenges. And so for me, you know, change is all about yourself. So yeah, and I think I'm just going to leave it at that, wrap it up there. So I see Ian's on his way out. So yeah, and gone. So Lee, I think we'll leave it at that, wrap it up and see what's on the cards for tomorrow.
Well, on that, we have to talk about money tomorrow. You know, it's not a light topic, but it's one that I think we do need to delve into some more. So Scott, please come back tomorrow. We need your thoughts, your opinions, what's changed, why, and there's lots of lovely conversations we can have. And I'm just not even going to pose a question. I'm just going to say money, and you can take it whatever direction you want to.
Money.
Right. So is it 8 o'clock again tomorrow, or are you doing your 9 o'clock meeting?
No, we do. Listen, Wisdoms is always 8 o'clock. The chamber meeting is at 9.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Good. So it's funny in a rich man's world. So enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you on tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers, folks.
Thanks, guys.